So as always, we're starting with Aries here. All right, so some of these videos are going to be a little bit longer than others by sign because depending upon the sign, I don't know, I have more to say. Aries this is a sign that is being, of course, trined by Jupiter in Sagittarius. We are using the natural house system. So you're going to put, if you're looking at whichever planet, whether it's your sun, your moon, your Venus, your Mercury, whatever's in Aries, you're going to imagine it's in the first house of a chart, okay? And then you just simply put the other signs in order in the other houses. You can draw this out if it helps you visualize it better. So having Aries is easy because Aries is the natural first house for the horoscope, okay? Having Aries in the first tells us that Jupiter then is in the ninth. Anyone who has an Aries sun, their life is experiencing. In fact, if we back up a little bit, let's go back to when Jupiter was in Aries, which this was back in like 2010 or so. 2010, 2011. 2010 it was in Aries. And that probably would have been a time of sort of a resolve in those Arians' lives to live a life that was authentically aligned with who they are. You know, kind of like the throwing off perhaps of maybe of religious background or becoming interested in it again, depending on your age, the age that you are as an Aries. And the thing is, it's just the focus would have been, what do I believe? What's my life about? Where do I find meaning? And where do I find purpose in my life? And then you had Uranus, of course, joining the sign of Aries. You know, Uranus moved into Aries, and then those Arians experienced all of these outer forces in their life that were disruptive or that were chaotic, that were there to sort of help them liberate themselves from any chains that were keeping them stuck to old ways of living their lives. So a lot of Arians, or people with strong Aries in their charts, had some disruption and upheaval in their lives between 2000, or really from like 2008 up until now, because of Pluto as well. So, but really if you start with the cycle, 2011, we've got a Jupiter that's in the sign of Aries. Jupiter spends about a year in a sign, okay? So it's one of those planets that's every year it kind of has a theme. It's not exact, but it's pretty close. So as Jupiter then moved through, of course, Taurus, and then moved into Gemini, these Arians were experiencing, maybe they were building something new in their world, whether it was their business or whether it was in their personal world. But everything was coming from this perspective that was highly motivated by self-expression. This is my journey, my life. I am here to be authentically me, right? And they were many times, a lot of Aries were sort of inspiring other people, or they were on a path that was one that was really authentically for the self. And so it was for others, it could have felt like a reminder, a beacon almost, like, oh yeah, I need to remember to live my life more authentically. But Arians may have also learned some of the lessons that have to do with when you do boldly, blaze a trail. Sometimes you run over other people and you hurt people because everyone's on a different place in their little journey. Some people are maybe still in a place where they are really needy or dependent, or they're emotionally just in a different spot. So my needs versus the other person's needs, and also my journey versus your journey versus the collective journey, and how is that, what's my role? Am I my brother's keeper? Kind of a thing. That stuff kind of came to the surface. So I feel like once Jupiter if you imagine this, like you can think of even the cycle of the moon. When we have a new moon and then you have a first quarter. It's the same thing with the planets. So when Jupiter moved into the sign of Cancer, that would have been 2013 to 2014. Suddenly we're starting to learn more about emotion as a collective, as a group. And for Aries, now they're getting smacked with issues in their family. Their rebellion or their need to strike it out and do things on their own is going to show up in their home life, in their relationships, their personal relationships. They may have experienced feeling deep emotion that was unsettling even. They may have experienced breakups, shifts and changes in their home environment, like, oh, maybe this doing it my own way isn't so easy after all. Maybe, like a little bit of perhaps some crises that had to do with their hearts and how they really felt about brazenly sort of blazing this trail alone. Oh, maybe I can't do it myself. Maybe I do need other people. I need others in my life. Oh, maybe I did hurt you. I didn't mean to hurt you. I was just focused on my trail. You know what I mean? And then a little bit of, I suppose, absolution and perhaps recompense, during that sort of Cancer phase. And the Cancer square, the Jupiter and Cancer square to Aries, would have been teaching them a bit more about, if they have anything in the sign of Cancer, right? What's in your fourth house in your birth chart? If you're an Aries rising, then you have Cancer in your fourth house as an Aries. But if you have any other rising sign, then Cancer, fourth house, you're going to have something different in your fourth house, and Cancer, the sign, is going to be somewhere different on your chart. So look at it. Where were you feeling emotionally triggered? Okay, and why? What was triggering you? What was pulling on you? What was the thing that was making you feel something where you felt confused, or you felt almost even maybe like victimized, or like hurt, or just sort of like, ooh, ouch, that hurts. So then so you were learning a little, what I'm trying to say is you were learning a bit more though about your actions, your life, and how you need other people, how vulnerability and being okay with being who you are it's a little scary, but maybe necessary. Now, you weren't probably all the way yet on the path to being okay with being wide open with all of your vulnerabilities, okay? Still maybe even trying to fight things. In fact, I feel like Aries with this journey has been trying to fight a lot of things because of the Uranus that they've had. It's like the need to do things your own way. I've had Uranus on my moon, so I'm in the same boat. The need to feel like you figured it out on your own, and it's separate from anybody else's journey, and it's like my journey, and that kind of thing. But I think once Uranus moves into Taurus, then those of us that have Aries in our chart will see, oh yeah, okay, we're part of this big, it wasn't just me figuring things out, a bunch of people were all at the same time for a reason. So Jupiter then moves into kind of Leo, trines the sun. So that would have been a year, gosh, what's that, like 2015? A time for Aries that probably romantic, a good time for self-expression, creating something that has to do with work or with your personal ambitions and goals. Just probably felt like a pretty good year for the most part. 2016 then becomes a bit of a tricky year. That's a year of adjustment because it moves into Virgo. And that's the year when we recognize our inadequacies. We recognize the areas in our life where even with our health, that can show up in our health. Our work-home balance is kind of off and funky. We maybe thought things were a lot better than they were, or we recognize maybe that we need to work on ourselves, basically. It's a year of humbling, So that's like 2016, 2017. All right, sort of messy, fixing things. See, Virgo is a sign that recognizes that in this world of formed physical experiences, this world of your perspective, my perspective, right? It's like, it's an imperfect world. I can't see everything you're seeing. You can't see everything I'm seeing. There's this quality of being, we can be wrong, quite simply. You can be wrong. You can be rejected by people. You cannot fit. You can be trying something that you feel like you totally believe in, and it fails. And that's just life. You go back to the drawing board. So then we had Jupiter move into Libra, and that was sort of 2017-ish into like 2018, beginning of 2018-ish. And so sort of that was when I had that on my sun, and I was like, oh yay, Jupiter to my sun, how exciting, how wonderful. And it was great, brought lots of blessings. It brought a ton of work, because I had other things personally happen to me at the same time. So I was learning a lot about the ego and what one is willing, what we think we can take on, right? The universe is like, oh, you think you can take this on? Here you go. And you're just like, whoa. For Aries, it was opposite them. And so Aries were learning in their relationships with people, kind of a revisiting. All right, so I tried the thing with relationships where I was open to being vulnerable, Jupiter and Cancer phase, or open to maybe even settling down with someone, or open to maybe the family thing, and that didn't go so well. Now maybe I'm open to this idea of relationships, maybe from more of a, a place that's like an equal partner, more of a, you're a romantic like a helpmate. You're someone that I can experience life with. You're my, I don't know, just lessons that come from other people. And also, when you have Jupiter in the 7th house in the natural chart, okay, it's like Gemini's right now in their natural chart, because Jupiter's in Sagittarius, it's opposite Gemini, it's in the 7th. So anytime Jupiter's in a sign opposite your natal sign, you're learning about relationships with people, okay? So for Aries, they're going to be learning about the areas in their lives where maybe they have been less than, they haven't been very Libran. Maybe they need to be more couth and have more skill and be better at relationships, be more patient, be more thoughtful of the other person, be more understanding. Rather than just reacting in a way, thinking about how another person might receive that, and then affecting or adjusting their reactions without denying, without being fake, still being true to the self. Because they still had, remember, Uranus on their sun, so they're still rebellious. And as we had last year, Uranus kind of moved into Taurus for a little bit, and so it came off of, it moved for Arians, it moved out of the 1st house. And it was like Aries kind of, maybe we're entertaining this idea of, for a second it seems like a lot of Aries were kind of lost in the fall of last year, of 2018. A little bit lost, looking for something to grab onto, And then Uranus came back into their 1st house, and then they're like, oh yeah, I'm in charge, I'm the boss. And they're like, oh yeah, I'm back. But yeah, just wait, Aries, because that Uranus will move back into Taurus, and it's not a bad thing. It's just the ego, again, getting a little bit of a, like a reminder that there's more to learn, I guess. I don't know. There's more. You need to bring more Libra in still. Bring in that Libra in. Remember, that's the thing that you were working on. And as soon as Jupiter moved into Scorpio, for Aries, that would have been a time of like, and that's going to be sort of 2017 and 2018, of course. It was the hashtag Me Too movement. So just think about when that was happening in the news. The same thing was in the 8th. This is in the 8th house of Aries. So like things that tie to sexuality, secrets with other people, stuff that's taboo, secrets coming out, things that are pretty like heavy duty emotional baggage, betrayals, people lying to each other or hurting each other, people doing stuff that's pretty awful that needs to be purged, basically. It's like really bad human behavior, okay? That's power dynamics, one person hurting another person, all the things that have to do with like, cheating and affairs and illicit relationships, and or if you're not that type of person, it's just, where are the secrets in your life, and why are you participating in secrets? Why are you living your life? You think you're being very open and authentic and like being yourself, but are you though? It's like that stuff. What are you hiding from yourself even? So that kind of was in conjunct their suns. That was an uncomfortable year, and it might have had a lot to do with money and joint resources you shared with a partner, a marriage partner or a business partner, or if you had money in investments, that kind of thing. There may have been, just could have been an area where you were really focusing on, I don't know, taking care of that stuff in your life, making sure it was all figured out. If you have if you have a will, or if you are someone who has investments, that if something should happen to you, because 8th house does have to do with death. So it does feel like a time, a lot of endings, and experiencing even deaths in your life, like literal possible deaths of people you care about, or the ending of relationships and that sort of thing. It's your sort of coming face to face with the darker, the truth that we all will die one day. And this is that life has depth to it and has mystery to it, and that you can go one way or the other. There's the the light path, and there's the dark path, and there's a path that is really self-destructive, and there's a path that's liberating in a sense, and there's a path that's liberating that's not self-destructive, that is liberating, it liberates the soul and the body, So it's like those themes. And now that Jupiter's in Sagittarius, Aries are experiencing a trine to their sun. So now it's kind of like, oh, okay, I'm feeling a sense of my journey. Maybe things are feeling good for Aries right now, I have a lot of Aries in my life, male and female, and just kind of thinking of the journeys they've all been through, and it's really interesting, really similar paths, like a lot of them experiencing people that were really close to them being different from who they thought they were, and that Aries natural kind of instinctive naivete being sort of exposed to some truths that were ugly in other people, but that were also truths that we all carry inside of ourselves, fears that they may have had about themselves and distrust they have in themselves. Like, oh my gosh, how did I align myself with this person and not see all of this in this person? That kind of thing. So now it feels as though, okay, I've made it through that, made it through that journey. Sort of what is next? I feel stronger for it. I feel like I understand relationships better. Maybe you figured out for yourself in your relationships, I don't know, that you want to be authentically yourself and what that looks like for you, Like you may have a desire to travel. For some people, it's like literally shows up as Sagittarius. I want to go travel, or I want to go back to school, or I want to study philosophy, or I want to dig deep down into like my religious roots. Maybe here I live in Utah, so a lot of people here are Mormon, and so maybe I'm curious to study, not because I want to necessarily maybe become Mormon, but maybe I'm curious. Like there's a lot of people who have left the LDS Church here that would be interested in astrology, and so it's sort of like maybe I'm curious about my roots and why, like that ontology and how it affects my psychology and affects even the way I've been living my life, because that Uranian influence would have been that was also on top of the LDS Church, for example, on their sun, so like a lot of changes and revolution in the church with the young people because of the internet, sort of that introduction of technology which brought information to the surface. So like having to process anger or resentment or whatever. And you don't have to have been Mormon, of course. This can be someone of any religious faith or any sort of childhood background. We all have to at some point in our adult life decide, what do I believe? Where am I finding meaning? And you guys are like the protagonists. You're the heroes and the mythic journey. So Arians really need to have a holy grail that they're sort of questing for. If they don't, why are we doing any of it? What's the point? I mean, then you have an Aries who falls into the trap of just escaping life, and that's really sad, because Aries, your gift to the rest of us is you guys are the ones that are like a match. You light the fire. You get other people excited. You trigger people in ways that are like motivating and pure and just like, boom. The bravery and the courage that an Aries sometimes has, and sometimes it's just like pure, they just aren't thinking, they're just like, I have a moon in Aries, so sometimes I'll just, I just feel something and I feel it, and well, whatever, I didn't mean it personal, it had to come out. And that is, though, many times gives other people kind of that permission to trust their instinctive feelings. Aries at the heart, actually, at its essence, is a sign that's very much about innovation, creation. Like, oh my gosh, I need to be moving towards something. I need something that I'm excited about and passionate about that's lighting my fire inside, or that rather than I'm sort of the fuel that I have to burn to keep my flame bright. So having Jupiter in Sagittarius is a time where there's a lot of fire for Aries. The problem is, of course, we are lacking air that is of a sort of, we have Uranus, which is, in my mind, in my pantheon of astrology, Uranus and Aquarius are sort of synonymous with one another, more or less, corollaries. So Uranian energy is great because it does teach us to use our minds, our intellect, but it's very detached from the heart. It's about the collective, the group. It's not about the personal, the self, okay? So having that energy, opposite Aries is teaching you guys to break free from old patterns and old ways of thinking, which is wonderful. Old ways of looking at the world. And like my dad's an Aries, and he actually grew up Catholic, left the Catholic Church for many years, and like has returned like full-fledged Catholic. But it's from this perspective of like he's seeing it completely new. He's individuated away from his family of origin and decided for himself it's the path that he wants to follow. So choosing for yourself what it is that gives your world meaning and purpose. That's kind of Aries' journey right now. And as Uranus, it's scooted back into Aries for a little bit, until it gets back into Taurus, which will happen in March. We're going to be you're still kind of revisiting and retooling your relationship to what it means to be independently, sort of assertively yourself in the world. And Jupiter's whispering to you right now and sort of like, is fanning your flames of fire and saying it's getting you excited about the journey and hopeful and optimistic about the future. But Capricorn is also reminding you slowly, Pluto and Capricorn, slowly moving through Capricorn in your 10th house, and Saturn, which has been in the 10th house more recently, is saying, what are you doing with your life? What are you making of yourself? Do you have the respect of your peers? Are you good enough? Like, there's some burdens and some weight that Aries have been under this past like year and a half that have had to do with their self-esteem. Like, I feel like a lot of Aries self-esteem has kind of been, a bit hit lately. So with Jupiter coming but as I said, we don't have any of the sort of the outer planets in air signs that are giving or even in, I even would like we have the Capricorn earthiness, but I just feel like Aries needs something more to kind of hold on to. And right now, you guys are going to be on an adventure this year, especially sort of the first half of the year. You're trying something new, okay? And that's wonderful. You're going to be learning something, though, and it's going to tie directly into what you believe about yourself and how you choose to live your life. And whether you think of yourself as a good person, quote unquote, a person who's here, who's spreading light and being authentically true. That's the biggest. Where are you being untrue? Where are you self-betraying? That's your big theme. Where in your life is there's still material that needs to be brought up and shown kind of to the world, and what are you not looking at still too? Okay, it's kind of a long one, but there you go. That's Aries. Jupiter and Aries, the blessings, as I said, it's going to help you guys get much more clear as Jupiter moves into Capricorn. I feel like the 2020 will be a year of sort of solidification of your identity, feeling like maybe you create something with your business or in your relationships, you feel a sense of purpose and more of a sense of like responsibility to others. Not just the journey being about the self, but how can I live my life in a way that is really encouraging others on their path as well, sort of mentoring others or building up other people's lives and worlds, etc. So, all right. Thanks for being you, Aries. Okay, take care.